the groundwork set in the previous decade, the 1980s saw vast improvements in technology and gameplay, ushering in the golden age of arcade games.
Jerry, I've been preparing for this moment my entire life.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're continuing our series on the top 10 arcade games per decade with our picks for the top 10 arcade games of the 1980s.
Those games challenge eye-hand coordination, mind-body coordination, fast reaction time, and comprehensive thinking on a level that modern games don't.
For this list, we're looking at the best arcade games of the decade in terms of popularity, critical acclaim, longevity, and the impact they've had on the video gaming medium. We're focusing on games that saw popularity primarily in the arcades. So while there was indeed a port of Super Mario Bros. For coin-op use, you won't find it here. Number 10, Rampage. For those who wanted to feel like they were in their very own monster movie, Rampage allowed them that pleasure, as the player controls various monsters as they tear cities apart, stop the National Guard, and eat people. The game was fun due to the sheer amount of adversaries, including helicopters, tanks, and police cars, and for the destructive cities. It could also support up to 3 players at once, allowing your friends to join in on the mayhem and adding to the fun. Number 9, Bubble Bobble. Bubble Bobble was a game that was so popular at the time that even with multiple ports across dozens of systems, the arcade game remains the definitive version. In the game, up to 2 players control baby dragons Bub and Bob as they travel through stages, defeating all the enemies by bursting them inside bubbles. Its success led to many sequels and spawned a whole series of copycats, from Snow Bros to Tumble Pop. It is also notable for being one of the first games with different endings depending on if a second player was present. Get used to that music though. Number 8, Mario Bros. While not nearly as successful as later iterations from the famous plumber, Mario Bros is known for giving the hero of Donkey Kong the name Mario, as beforehand he had been known as Jumpman. In the game, both Mario and Luigi battle creatures in the sewers, but unlike later games where Mario can famously jump on enemies, they can only be flipped onto their backs and kicked away. While it had the unfortunate timing of being released during the infamous video game crash, it wasn't long before Mario and his friends were taking over the world. Number 7, Dig Dug. Dig Dug, like many famous arcade games, was a Japanese creation before being imported overseas. The game has a simple enough concept in that the player, controlling the titular hero, has to eliminate monsters underground by inflating them to death or by dropping rocks on them. The game was praised for its fun concept and unpredictable nature, as enemies could travel through the dirt to ambush the player. Not to mention, it's really easy for the game's walking tune to get stuck in your head. Number 6, Q*bert. One of the most beloved video game characters in the Golden Age era, Q*bert became a popular cultural phenomenon in the early 1980s. Q*bert is controlled by the player, and the goal is to change the colors of cubes in a seemingly 3D pyramid, all while avoiding enemies and obstacles. The character became extremely popular, appearing on merchandise like lunchboxes and even receiving his own animated television show. Praised for its unique gameplay and the stellar audio-visual production values, most of Q*bert's popularity could be attributed to his potty mouth. Number 5, Gauntlet. Considered to be one of the first multiplayer dungeon crawl games, Gauntlet appeased both fantasy lovers and general gamers looking for a fun time. The game could hold up to 4 players at once, who had a choice between 4 different fantastical characters, each with their own skills and weaknesses, an obvious influence on the RPG games of today. It's been praised for its very compelling level design and exciting fantasy-based gameplay. Its legacy as a pioneer for gaming today still lives on. Number 4, Galaga. A sequel to the successful 1979 game Galaxian, Galaga introduced a few new features to the well-established formula, creating a bigger and even better game. New to the sequel was the ability for players to become captured by the boss Galaga via his tractor beam. Hot off the heels of Space Invaders, Galaga's success led to many copycats looking to get into the shoot-'em-up craze. And with its legacy still being felt today, Galaga earns its spot in gaming history. Number 3. Frogger. If Frogger did one thing right, it was changing its name from Highway Crossing Frog. Considered a classic from the golden age of arcade games, Frogger has been played by pretty much everyone.
What are you guys doing? Eat the fly! Eat the fly!
The player controls a frog as it makes its way across a road and river, avoiding an array of fatal obstacles. Frogger was a sensation, becoming one of the most popular arcade games of the 80s. And when the game made a transition to home consoles, it sold 20 million copies. Still enjoyed today in various ports and remakes, Frogger will always be a video gaming icon. Number 2. Donkey Kong. Created by famous video game designer Shigeru Miyamoto, Donkey Kong was Nintendo's first breakout hit, and it soon became one of the most influential and popular video games of all time. Donkey Kong introduced both the titular villain and Mario, whom, as we mentioned earlier, was known as Jumpman. It was praised for its challenging and exciting platforming gameplay, and is known as an early example of the now famous genre. Spawning numerous sequels, spin-offs, and even inspiring a whole documentary movie, Donkey Kong was a major influence in video gaming and a pop culture marvel. Before we look at our most influential top pick, here are a few honorable mentions. Number 1. Miss Pac-Man. Pac-Man may be one of the most popular video game characters of all time, but it's his wife that not only has the better game, but the best arcade game of the era.
I'm more than Pac-Man with a bow!
The goal of these games, as we're sure you know, is to get the Pacs to eat dots while traversing a maze and avoiding the famed ghosts. However, what sets the misses ahead is that her game has multiple mazes, forcing the player to quickly change and adapt new strategies as they progress. Because of these new mazes, the game is still as incredibly fun to play today as it was more than 30 years ago, making it our easy pick for number 1. Do you agree with this list? What arcade game from the 80s do you consider the best? For more crowd-pleasing top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
Jay, that never crossed my mind.